Hi, I'm Craig Brelsford. Welcome to another episode of Small Stocks, Big Money. For those of you new to the show, RedChip is an investor relations, media, and research firm focused on emerging growth companies. Our unique platform combines global multimedia with traditional investor relations, reaching investors around the world. Now, today's show features interviews with the executives of two public companies. First up is Enlivex Therapeutics. Enlivex is a clinical-stage macrophage reprogramming immunotherapy company developing Allocetra, a universal off-the-shelf cell therapy designed to reprogram macrophages, which are primary immune cells, into their homeostatic state. Osteoarthritis and many other diseases reprogram macrophages out of their homeostatic state. These non-homeostatic macrophages contribute significantly to the severity of the respective diseases. By restoring macrophage homeostasis, Allocetra has the potential to provide a novel immunotherapeutic mechanism of action and resolution for conditions which are life-threatening and debilitating unmet medical needs. We'll learn more when we speak with the CEO later in the show. Up next is 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals. 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals is a growth-oriented biotechnology company with the goal of using cutting-edge biological science and applied research to further develop and commercialize new therapies for the prevention and treatment of infectious diseases. 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals has successfully achieved regulatory approval of Iracoda, a malaria preventative treatment that has been on the market since late 2019. Currently, 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals' pipeline includes development programs for tafenoquine and kelgosivir, targeting fungal, tick-borne, and other viral diseases. We'll learn more when we speak with the CEO later in the show. Before we dive into our first interview, let's take a moment to recognize some of RedChip's top performers in 2024, including RedCat, up an incredible 1,293% in 2024. Alliance Entertainment, soaring by 842%. Gorilla Technology, which gained 250%. And Nova Minerals, up 149%. These companies have demonstrated the immense potential of the small-cap market. Before we move forward, let's take a look at RedChat, a revolutionary AI chatbot for small-cap stock analysis.
Think RedChip. Think RedChat. Answers in seconds on any NYSE or NASDAQ company. Fast, easy, precise. From blue chips to microcaps. Cash, enterprise value, analyst ratings. Answers in seconds. RedChat with SEC filing references. Think RedChip. Think RedChat. Your AI assistant for every NYSE and NASDAQ company. Get the app today. RedChip. RedChat.
Now let's move on to our quote of the week. It comes from the book Small Stocks, Big Money. Work hard, be a long-term thinker, develop tenacity, and remember, nothing happens without taking calculated risks. This quote comes from Phil Sassower of the Phoenix Group, and it is featured in Chapter 9 of Small Stocks, Big Money, a book of exclusive interviews with some of the biggest players in the micro-cap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon today for just $18. Now let's get started with our first interview today with Enlivex Therapeutics. Hello, today we have with us Oren Hershkowitz, the CEO of Enlivex Therapeutics, which trades on the NASDAQ under the ticker ENLV. Oren, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back.
Enlivex is pioneering a novel approach to treating disease, not by treating symptoms or individual disease markers, but by restoring immune balance through something called macrophage reprogramming. For viewers new to this concept, Oren, can you explain what that means in practical terms and why this approach could be a breakthrough across multiple serious conditions?
Right. So I'll try to keep it simple. This is a completely new, novel idea of treating inflammatory disease. And the way we are targeting those diseases is by targeting specific immune cells called macrophages, as you said. Now, macrophages are important immune cells. They have many roles. Part of what they do is clear dying cells and do many activities, respond to pathogens and so on. But in some diseases, they actually become part of the pathophysiology of the disease. They promote inflammation in cases where they no longer need to do that. So what we're doing is we are targeting those macrophages. We reprogram them, we modulate them, and change their activity from a pro-inflammatory cell to kind of an anti-inflammatory, a more a cell that push back to resolution of the immune system, right? And because this phenomena is occurs in many different diseases, actually we can use our platform to treat many different inflammatory indications.
Enlivex is generating a lot of attention for its work in knee osteoarthritis, which is a $7 billion global market. What has the response been so far to your interim clinical data?
Right. So we're drawing attention because this is really an severe unmet medical condition, very, very, very common. 10% of the adults in the US are suffering from osteoarthritis, and mainly what they're suffering from is pain. It's limiting their daily life, right, activities. And what we did, we injected our Cetra to 15 patients and monitored their pain, their function, and so on. We saw 50% drop in their pain report and substantial, statistically significant improvement in the functionality. Uh, and that's extremely exciting. And now we're waiting for the randomized control data to evaluate the comprehensive response of additional patients.
Now, can you give us a sense of the timeline ahead? When should investors expect top line phase 2 data, and what would successful results mean for Enlivex?
Sure. So, as I said, the phase one was already completed, which is really the 6 month, the 3 months and 6 months data. It's not just the data was statistically significant; it was also durable. So the effect was maintained between 3 months and 6 months. And that's very important. In terms of the phase two, it's the phase two part is a randomized control, really sizable study. We just announced a completed enrollment, 130 patient, more than 130 patient enrolled in those. And we're expecting the 3 months readout actually very soon, by August, the latest. So it's really just around the corner. We're still blinded, but relying on the initial data that we've just described, we're very optimistic.
Oren, you're also exploring other indications like TMJ, osteoarthritis, and psoriatic arthritis. What does this say about Allocetra's platform potential?
So, as I said before, many diseases share the same common feature of involving the pro-inflammatory macrophages. Since we are modulating those cells, it's relevant for different indications, including psoriatic arthritis and TMJ. TMJ, it's actually another form of osteoarthritis. We have osteoarthritis occurring mostly in the knee and the hip, but it also occurs in the hand joints and in the jaw joints. Actually, this is pretty unique because in this cases, we're talking about patients that are younger that suffer from some using anxiety or stuff like that that can lead to overuse of our jaw and eventually lead to osteoarthritis. And this is again a very severe, life-limiting, debilitating indication. And it again suggests that it's a platform. So we're targeting different indications, and eventually we can develop this for different diseases.
You have $23.5 million in cash, which gives you a runway through the end of 2026. How well positioned is Enlivex to reach its next major milestones?
So I think this is a unique situation. I think we're a small micro cap company, but well financed. We had a very plain vanilla capital structure, as you said, $23.5 million. That cover all of our activity until the end of 2026, including the one you just described. The readout from the basal thumb osteoarthritis, TMJ, and so on. We are planning ahead already for our follow-up studies in knee osteoarthritis. Uh, the data that we just discussed about that is expected by August, and probably for that, we'll do an additional financing to cover those follow-up studies of phase 2, 3. But all other activities are actually one funded within the current capital that we have.
Oren, your leadership team has a strong track record, including a $560 million exit and a partnership with Pfizer. How does that experience shape your strategy today?
Well, it definitely shape our strategy. I mean, the timeline. So the time point that we did that exactly, deal with Pfizer, that eventually lead to a drug that is currently approved today. It's called Ngenla. Was after we had a successful clinical phase 2 data, and that's more or less what we are also targeting in our case. We're planning to generate quality, significant clinical data that will allow us eventually to seek for a partner that will work with us for the late stage and potentially commercialize the drug for the different indications. So it's part of our strategy, but we are also working on continue the development in neosteroids so we can take this asset and to the next clinical stage, and in parallel look for partnership to kind of maximize the potential of this drug.
Final question, Oren. What is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Enlivex right now?
Okay, it's a great question. I think first of all, we're currently a public company traded on NASDAQ around cash. So from the exposure here is small, and on the other hand, we have a strong leadership, we had a strong science, we have several clinical milestones. One is just coming ahead, in an unmet medical condition. And I think all of this together, if you take that into account, makes it a very, very interesting and appealing opportunity for investors.
Oren, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Now, to get more information on Enlivex Therapeutics, visit enlvinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free, and you can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com, featuring emerging growth companies like Enlivex Therapeutics. Watch this show again and explore hundreds of small-cap stock videos on RedChip's YouTube channel. Also, go to our website and sign up on our events page for the webinar series. We have webinars every week, several a week, in which we feature small public companies, mostly client companies, and you'll hear straight from the CEO, and you'll be able to ask questions after that. Again, visit redchip.com and subscribe today. In addition to our newsletter, you can also order your copy of Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book written by RedChip's CEO, featuring interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Order your copy on Amazon today for just $18. Before we move forward, let's take a look at RedChat, a revolutionary AI chatbot for small-cap stock analysis.
Think RedChip. Think RedChat. Answers in seconds on any NYSE or NASDAQ company. Fast, easy, precise. From blue chips to microcaps. Cash, enterprise value, analyst ratings. Answers in seconds. RedChat with SEC filing references. Think RedChip. Think RedChat. Your AI assistant for every NYSE and NASDAQ company. Get the app today. RedChip. RedChat.
Now let's move on to our next interview today with 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals. Hello, today we have Jeff Dow, the CEO, President, and Director of 60 Degrees Pharma. Jeff, great to have you today.
Yeah, you too, Craig. Great to see you again.
Jeff, for those hearing about 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals for the first time, what's the core mission of the company, and why is now an exciting time to take a look at your company?
So our core mission is developing new small molecules for infectious disease, and we're focusing really from an R&D perspective on tick-borne disease, specifically babesiosis. It's a great time to get involved with the company because we're right on the cusp of generating interesting clinical data early next year, and we're positioned very nicely commercially to get to cash flow positivity in the next 18 months or so.
Now, Jeff, you've already brought an FDA-approved product to market. Can you tell us about Arakota and how it's differentiated in the malaria prevention space?
Yeah, sure. So Arakota was FDA approved in 2018. It's been commercially available since 2019 for travel medicine. It is unique amongst anti-malarials for malaria prevention for two reasons. One, it's a weekly dosing product, so you only have to take it once a week while you travel. And then the other thing that differentiates it is it's effective in all parts of the world. So in many parts of the world, there's drug resistance, or there are different kinds of malaria. Our product, Arakota, has none of those issues, so you can use it everywhere.
Arakota's sales more than doubled year over year, even before your full-scale marketing push, Jeff. What is driving that growth, and what are your next steps to accelerate revenue?
So we saw some nice growth last year, which we're very pleased about. And we're about to kick our commercial pilot study for malaria prevention into full gear in the next month or so. And of course, folks will remember that there was a pandemic when we first launched the product in 2019. And so we're actually doing the first commercial push behind the product this year, and we're very excited about seeing what happens.
You've been working to expand Arakota's label to include babesiosis. This is a rapidly emerging tick-borne disease. Now, how big is that opportunity, and why is 60 Degrees Pharma uniquely positioned to lead here?
So, of course, those of you who have been following the Lyme disease story know that 25 years ago, there were hardly any cases. And now people talk about numbers like 900,000, a million cases a year based on insurance claims. We're sort of at that point with babesiosis, where the CDC says there might be 2,000 to 3,000 cases a year. But surveys and market research we've done suggest the burden of disease might be a lot higher than that. Our product, when it's combined with standard of care in immunosuppressed patients, seems to provide a really interesting therapeutic profile for patients who previously failed their standard of care medication. And what we're doing at 60 Degrees is basically trying to confirm those already published case reports with tafenoquine and hopefully be able to go to the FDA next year with a request for additional labeling to cover babesiosis. And then we can capitalize on the underserved market and benefit lots of patients, hopefully starting in late 2026 or early 2027.
Now, as you just touched on, Jeff, tafenoquine has shown high efficacy, including in those immunosuppressed patients with babesiosis, and other treatments often fail there. Can you break down how your drug is outperforming the standard of care?
Yeah, so immunosuppressed babesiosis patients, usually they have a lack of a spleen. They might be immunosuppressed because they're taking a drug that depletes their antibody production. And so they're really at risk of a normal babesiosis infection, which clears up in most people by itself. They're at risk of that disease being persistent and causing repeat hospitalizations. And what we found is that, in many patients, you get drug resistance to the existing combination standard of care. And that drug resistance seems to go away when you combine the standard of care with tafenoquine. And the case studies that have come out in the literature seem to show that tafenoquine is pretty active. Now what we're doing is systematically documenting that activity in a formal clinical trial to confirm the encouraging observations that have already been made in the scientific literature.
You've assembled a team with deep experience in commercial launches and regulatory success. What can you tell us about some of the key players?
My colleague, Kristen Landon, is our Chief Commercial Officer. She's been involved in at least 10 different commercial product launches and uniquely has a background in both big pharma and small pharma. And when you're a small virtual pharma company like us, having the kind of breadth of experience in big pharma, but also operating in the environment of small pharma, which is completely different, are two really important things to bring to the table. Our Chief Medical Officer, Brian Smith, he and I have known each other for at least 17 years. And we've been involved, of course, in the FDA approval of Aricoda originally. And then he himself separately was involved in another FDA approval of an anti-infective. And we're joined by Ty, who's been our Chief Financial Officer since 2014. And we're a pretty close-knit group used to working in a highly virtual environment, which is how the company's structured.
In summary, Jeff, what's the essential value proposition? Why should investors pay attention to 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals today?
So, of course, as I've joked with you before, Craig, we're the smallest NASDAQ-listed drug company with an approved FDA product. That shows the depth and breadth of our experience and our commitment to go the whole distance. But at the same time, potentially perhaps undervalued relative to companies that have more of a discovery or clinical portfolio and, haven't been to the rodeo before in terms of getting through the FDA and commercializing a product.
Jeff, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thanks a lot, Craig, and looking forward to seeing you next time.
Now, to get more information on 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals, visit SXTPinfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free, and you can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. We also have a free weekly newsletter you can subscribe to at redchip.com, featuring emerging growth companies like 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals. Watch this show again and explore hundreds of small-cap stock videos on RedChip's YouTube channel. Also, go to our website and sign up on our events page for the webinar series. We have webinars every week, several a week, in which we feature small public companies, mostly our client companies, and you'll hear straight from the CEO, and you'll be able to ask questions after that. Again, visit redchip.com and subscribe today. In addition to our newsletter, you can order Small Stocks, Big Money. This is a book written by RedChip CEO, featuring interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. Get a digital copy on Amazon for $18. Now, let's recap the companies featured today. First, you met Enlivex Therapeutics ENLV on the NASDAQ. Enlivex is a clinical-stage macrophage reprogramming immunotherapy company developing Allocetra, a universal off-the-shelf cell therapy designed to reprogram macrophages, which are primary immune cells, into their homeostatic state. Osteoarthritis and many other diseases reprogram macrophages out of their homeostatic state. These non-homeostatic macrophages contribute significantly to the severity of the respective diseases. By restoring macrophage homeostasis, Allocetra has the potential to provide a novel immunotherapeutic mechanism of action and resolution for conditions which are life-threatening and debilitating, unmet medical needs. Learn more at www.enlvinfo.com. Then, you met 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals, SXTP on the NASDAQ. 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals is a growth-oriented biotechnology company with the goal of using cutting-edge biological science and applied research to further develop and commercialize new therapies for the prevention and treatment of infectious diseases. 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals has successfully achieved regulatory approval of Aricoda, a malaria preventative treatment that has been on the market since 2019. Currently, 60 Degrees Pharmaceuticals' pipeline includes development programs for tafenoquine and kelgosivir targeting fungal, tick-borne, and other viral diseases. Learn more at www.sxtpinfo.com. Don't forget to check out our stocks page. It is the biggest small-cap stock portal in the industry. It has every company listed on the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange whose market caps are $2 billion and less, and it's categorized by industries. Watch this show again and explore hundreds of small cap stock videos on RedChip's YouTube channel. Also, be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter and learn about a lot of small cap companies. Go to our website as well and sign up on our events page for the webinar series. We have webinars every week, several a week, in which we feature small public companies, mostly our client companies, and you'll hear straight from the CEO, and you'll be able to ask questions after that. Again, if you have any questions about any of our public companies featured on today's show, call us at 1-800-RedChip or email us at info@redchip.com. In closing, remember, while small caps can provide significant gains, you must be prepared for the downside. Small cap stocks are among the most volatile of asset classes. Some of the companies featured on this show are RedChip client companies, and we may own stock in these companies. So please, always read our disclosures at redchip.com. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you next week with some new, exciting, emerging growth companies.
For 32 years, RedChip has been discovering tomorrow's blue chips today with early research on Starbucks, Celsius, Daktronics, Winnebago, and more. Now we bring you RedChat, an innovative AI solution which gives you answers in seconds on over 2,000 small cap stocks listed on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. Visit redchip.com today and use RedChat, your AI small cap assistant. RedChat.